So we're delighted today to have Jamie Jouning, who's the Global Chief Client Officer at Condé Nast with us. Hi, Jamie. How are you?
Very good, Nick. Nice to be here.
Thank you. So really interested in this one. Three quick questions for you. Condé Nast obviously has a range of titles that really do help shape culture, especially in a lifestyle sense, from GQ, Vogue, Wired, House and Garden, etc. As the Global Chief Client Officer, how do you balance building these iconic brands and maintaining the sort of editorial integrity that they have with the need to run a profitable commercial media platform? How do you balance the title's brand voice with brand advertising?
Sure. Well, I think, your point at the front that we have this extraordinary position in culture. We often talk about Condé Nast owning culture and having an extraordinary share of culture, at least. And that is down to our talent, our editors around the world who are constantly, I suppose, at that intersection of what's going on, what's going to happen in the future, the trends that are emerging. They sort of have that extraordinary foresight, which puts them right at the heart of culture. And they're reporting on all the various cultural touch points across the globe. My job as Chief Client Officer is to really to articulate what our brands are doing on a day-to-day basis and how they do have such relevance and how there is so much trust that we build up with our audience. And that's the key, I think. Increasingly, we're seeing with brands and with advertisers that they're having to change how they communicate with their consumer because they need to almost, I suppose, prove out that they have an authentic voice, that they are relevant in a cultural sense. And I think that's changed dramatically, even over the course of the last 6 months during the pandemic, that it's all about having this relevance and a cultural voice, which perhaps wasn't necessary previously. And my job in extolling those virtues as to my advertisers is that, look, we have that relationship with our consumers, and we can then be that intersection between what your brand message is and how that brand message ends up being relayed to our audiences around the world. It's really about our relationship that our brands have with the consumer, and then allowing our brand partners to access that consumer.
Yeah, so almost like the strength of your titles and your voice within culture mean that it's easier than potentially for other people to do because the brands allow you to be the voice, and that adds credibility to them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Sure. The next question is around content and editorial platforms in general. And, since you sort of headed up the digital team, Condé Nast Britain, Great Britain, you sort of seen things evolve a lot. I was just wondering on your advice, basically, for editorial platforms from the grassroots up, because, as they evolve, they gain readership. They normally or often do that, and then they try and monetize. And we know it's a very difficult thing to do, often ending up with big, ugly banner ads, etc. What are their options? So I was just wondering on your advice for, today, monetizing editorial platforms. How would you say people should go about it?
I think fundamentally, the most important thing is putting the consumer first, because without an audience, it doesn't matter what you do, you cannot build an advertising business on the back unless you have an audience. So put the consumer first, give them what they want, whatever that content might be, and then you can build out a commercial proposition around that content. I think it's very dangerous to build a commercial proposition first without understanding what the consumer wants. So we always look at it very much from a consumer first perspective, and then build in the commercial proposition around it. And I think, again, the words that sort of always ring out to me are around relevance, around context, around adjacency. So, you want to make sure that that consumer who is enjoying your content will also understand and enjoy and appreciate whatever commercial partners you're putting in front of them. And if there's a complete disconnect, then you are doing a disservice not only to the advertiser, but you're doing a disservice to the consumer. And it's making sure that there is this constant idea of relevance, context, adjacency, and always allowing for a degree of serendipity. You don't want to, in this world where everything is over targeted, perhaps you don't want to find yourself in a position where there isn't something surprising occasionally, both from an editorial perspective and from a commercial perspective. So finding that right balance is the key. But I do genuinely believe it's about relevance and context.
Sure, thank you. So Condé, so you guys call yourself a media company for the future, and I think especially out of COVID, there's been lots of interesting new models and new things going on. Boldspace is sort of blending creativity, technology, but also advertising, marketing, PR, etc. So we're sort of thinking about it. But in terms of what you think about the future, particularly within luxury and lifestyle, I suppose, where are we headed for the future of content advertising, and in terms of how Condé Nast sees it?
Yeah, I mean, we have a very strong business in the sort of content advertising space, what traditionally called branded content or native content. And that is it will be an increasingly important part of our business. It has been an important part of our business for some time, where we are creating content on behalf of our partners. And I think the key to that side of the business is ensuring that the content is of exceptional quality. And that has to be the sort of guiding principle. If the content is good, if it's of a high quality, you'll get engagement, you'll get views, you'll get shares. So that is fundamentally important. This is content we create for partners should be no worse than content that we create for our consumers. From an editorial perspective. So that fundamentally that is I suppose guides everything that we do from a content perspective. But I think in the future the direction of travel is very much towards a world where you also have to overlay data. You also have to understand that there needs to be more of a performance metric against this content that you're creating for partners. And that's very much shaping how we are looking towards the future. There's also a huge shift towards video, and video is an area that we are increasingly competent on and in. We understand that the future, as much as print is an important part of our business, it's not going to be the growth part of our business. The growth will come from video, from digital, and from social. I think social is the other area, of course, which we're spending an awful lot of time understanding more, building up a commercial proposition around our social handles around the world, and we're doing it very successfully already. And it's this idea of going to where the consumer is, providing that consumer with content that they want, and then layering in sort of a commercial proposition. This idea about either being at the top of the funnel, at the bottom of the funnel, we see the journey right the way through the funnel now, and that's vitally important. It's not just about always getting to the end point. It's about how you get to that end point, how you get that consumer to consume your product, and we want to play a part in that journey right from the start, right the way through to the finish. This idea of layering in data over the top and better understanding our audiences will allow us to do that. And the reality is brands want they want a return on investment. They have to see performance now, and it's not sort of just an option. It's a prerequisite, and that's again been accelerated and exaggerated by the pandemic. As advertisers increasingly, even in the luxury and lifestyle space, they want to understand more about how whatever they might do, from an awareness perspective, actually ends up impacting sales down the bottom of the funnel. So we want to be on that, through that marketing funnel, right from the top, right to the bottom.
Sure. Jamie, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Cheers.
Okay, nice to talk to you.
Thank you.